Hi, and welcome back to the Naples Commission. My name is Shahkarami, your host. I'm excited to have a special featured guest here today with us, Walther Arias, owner of Lawnzcapes here in Naples, Florida. And before we get started, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button for more videos, reviews, and practical business tips and advice for you business owners here in Naples, Florida. Walther, before we just jump right in there, why don't you take a minute and just introduce yourself?
Hey, Sean. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me in your amazing YouTube channel. I really enjoy watching your content and all of your interviews. Very insightful. As a matter of fact, I've used some of the advice that I've learned from it. So I thank you. Like you said, my name is Walter Arias. I am the owner. I call myself actually the managing operator of Lawnzcapes. And I can tell you more about that in the interview. But I've owned the business for about 3 years. We've been basically cutting grass in Southwest Florida. We've been doing some renovations. We take care of irrigation, and our goal is to really make all of our properties look beautiful. I am also a family man. I'm married to my beautiful wife Vanessa, and I have two amazing boys, Orlando and Santiago, and they're 11 and 9. And we are a family that is focused and base all of our beliefs and the way that we act in God's word. So we work really hard at making sure that our boys grow with that good foundation and that we run our businesses and our family based on what God is saying in His word.
Walter, I love that. And I think this is an amazing interview opportunity. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe God aligned this because just last week we interviewed a local business broker who gave some tremendous, awesome advice. So if you're watching this after this interview, make sure to go back to last week's interview with Ashley Hum because, Walter, my understanding is you actually purchased this business and you were inspired by another friend, potentially another man of God, kind of motivated you to believe in yourself, to believe that, hey, I can actually buy a business and be successful at that. Maybe you just start off letting our audience know about the buying process.
Uh, well, let me backtrack a little bit. For the longest time, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I worked corporate America for about 15 years. 10 of those was in property management, working with HOAs and condos. But throughout the whole time, I'm thinking, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to have my own thing. I want to be my own boss. And so a friend of mine was actually a boss, was my boss. He one day came out and said, "Hey, I'm leaving the company, but I appreciate you and I would really like to have lunch with you and tell you why I'm leaving." And I was like, okay, that sounds great. Why not? So I met with him, sat down, and he explained to me that he's been buying and selling businesses for about 5 years at the time. And, he gave me all the jigs of how it works and how he's done it. And that he got to the point where he had enough business that he didn't really need a paycheck anymore. And his wife was comfortable with basically just being full entrepreneurs. And then he closed with these words. And those were the most impactful words for me that stuck with me still up to today. He said, and you can do it too. And those words inspired me and gave me the the fire, a little of a fire that said, Walter, you definitely have to go do this, because if he was able to do it, he told you that you can do it too. And I believed him with all my heart. I still believe him to this day. So I went back to my wife and I said, I had this conversation with him and he told me this, and I believe we can do it. We left it like that for 2 years. I sat on that idea until one day I came home and I was beat up from working too many hours, too many days without taking a day off. And somebody said something to me that rubbed me the wrong way. And I came home mad, almost took it on my wife. Like I just let all the rage out of my wife and I said, I'm done. We got to change this. I can't do this anymore. And at that point, I said, I need to go do my own thing. So we started the process. It took about good 12 months to find the right business. We looked through all of the different options because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to have a business. So I made a list of all of the businesses that I knew from my working in HOAs and condos that I knew we would pay on a regular basis. I like every month they were getting a check from us. So I put this list together and I said, landscaping is the one because it's got the most amount of reoccurring income every single month. And there is always work in Florida. No matter the time of the year, there is work. So we started pursuing that until we found the one that we said, you know what, this one looks good. We went through the due diligence process, which involves an accountant and an attorney, looking at the numbers, financial statements. I learned very fast, very quick how to learn or how to read financial statements. Even though I used to read financial statements for HOAs, it's way different for businesses. And I learned really quick about equipment and trucks and mowers and weed eaters and all of these intricates that the business came with, but I had to learn really quick because I needed to make a decision and make an offer on the business. So after talking with everybody that I knew that could help me out and asking for their advice, talking to the attorney, the CPA, and everybody's kind of like, green light, is good to go. Yes, everything sounds good. Equipment looks good. Employees look good. Taxes look good. Financials look good. I said, you know what? Let's put an offer. So we ended up putting an offer a little lower than what the original business was. And the owner came back with a counter offer. We signed a contract and then we started the whole application process. We ended up going through a bank for an SBA loan. So a lot to learn there as well because so many documents. They asked for so many documents, so many questions, and things that I didn't even know how to answer. I had to start Googling it, asking the questions from different people, calling my friend who said I could do it too. Hey man, I'm doing this. What do you think? So it wasn't a hard process. It was just a new process, right? And I think a lot of people get scared when they see the amount of paperwork and the amount of questions and the amount of different forms that you got to fill out. It's not hard. It just takes time, and they're easy to learn. So went through that, and we ended up closing 6 months later after we started with the contract. From contract to actually closing, it took about 6 months. And the reason it took that long is because we started with a bank. The bank first gave us an indication of, yes, we're good to go. And then they backed away from it. So we had to go back to a different bank and then restart the whole process again. Thankfully, we had some of the documentation that the other bank had asked. It was pretty much the same stuff. So we transferred that. But it was the whole restarting process. They had to do an appraisal of the business. They had to figure out what the cost of the equipment was. They had to look at the financials, contracts, and then finally they gave us the green light to close. But then it takes another few weeks, maybe a couple months even, for the attorneys to say, yeah, all the check boxes are good and we can move forward with that process.
Wow. So you hit on so many points from last week that I just want to highlight to the audience. One of the first things that you said that's important when looking at buying a business is thinking about your own skill set and what you want from the business. So it's really nice to hear that you gave a lot of thought to what kind of business do I want? Where does my skill set lend towards? And, does this business have recurring revenue? Is it adjacent to what I'm already doing? You said you're already doing property management, so it kind of made sense of a business in landscaping. There's always work, so I'm sure seasonality does have some effect, but year round there's needs for landscaping. Then you talked about the SBA loan process and having to learn and understand financials and clean financials, clean books, clean taxes, all that due diligence that's so important. And then you did all that front load work and it was still a 6 month process to get to close, to actually get the bank's final word on it. So I think a lot of insight, a lot of practical lessons that many entrepreneurs who are just beginning can glean a lot of wisdom just from that piece alone. And kind of transitioning to the next part in your journey here, what would you say was after you close, you take over the business? What was the main challenge at that point?
The main challenge was my own mindset. And it was so because I was so used to risk management and the prevention of problems. That was basically my job as a property manager. It was preventing the possibility of something bad happening. So I always expected things to go bad instead of expecting things to go right. And every time the phone rang, I would just get so nervous and tense, thinking that something was going on that was going to be a negative. And so getting out of that mindset of always trying to assume the worst of things prevented me from actually growing the business a little faster or being a better leader or even jumping in and learning the business more, because that's another principle that I would like to share. You don't have to know it all. In fact, you don't really have to know much. I knew how to mow my own lawn in my house, but I didn't know how to mow 100 lawns. I didn't know what it took to do that. I didn't know the type of equipment that you would need to do that. I knew how to do my little push mow, and my little battery operated weed eater. That was it. I didn't even know how to replace the weed eater line. So you don't have to know everything to get into a business. It's more about taking the risk and then learning on the way. So my guys would make fun of me and say, "Oh yeah, you're learning by messing up yards, and just jokingly like that, and or breaking the equipment or whatever the case would be." But I would ask them questions, and I would be very open minded for them to see that I was humble enough to say, "Just teach me, show me how to turn on that mower. I didn't even know how to turn one on." So I want to encourage people to say, you don't have to know everything. Number one, and number two, your mindset is everything, because that was the biggest issue that I had. I was caught in, how can I prevent issues rather than how can I grow my business? How can I become a better leader? How can I take my team to the next level where they don't have to depend solely on me? I was a micromanager. I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know where they were, at what time they got there, at what time they left, everything. There was not one thing that I wasn't asking them every single day. So some of them, they got frustrated because they were not used to that. So thankfully, I explained to them, look, I'm new at this. I don't know everything. So I really just want to know and understand so that I can learn. It, and that open communication did help me a lot, because I still have, out of the 5 employees that we inherited, we still have 3 of them, 3 years later. So building those relationships was important. And then finally realizing that my trust in God was everything for me. So once I started changing my mindset from having to micromanage everything, I also understood that it was my job to surrender or yield everything to our Heavenly Father and say, look, you put in me this vision, you put in me this idea, you sent to me this person to say that I could do it too. Now I'm going to say, this is your business, not mine. I'm just managing it, which is why I call myself the managing partner instead of the owner. I don't own it, he owns it, and I need this. So I started asking very specifically, I need a crew leader, I need a new machine, I need somebody that can come and help me and teach me. I need and God, I started answering. I came across so many amazing people that were just willing to sit down with me, have a lunch, and teach me stuff. One of them happened to be a former CEO of a very large HVAC company in Southwest Florida. And he looked at my business and he said, here's your next step. Here's your next step. Here's what you can do. And he gave me so many principles, and I just started applying them and applying them. And so long story short, not to boast or make me look like I'm the greatest guy out there, because I'm not. I'm still learning. I'm still very new. It's only 3 years. I've been off the field by about 3 to 4 months or so, like that. I haven't stepped foot on the field at all. Now I have two main leaders that are the ones that are managing the operation. They're the ones that are leading the teams. The only thing that I'm really focusing on right now is sales and scheduling, which is really where I feel my time as a managing partner is better served. And because I've made a switch, now the business continues to grow. So we went from about 100 clients that we purchased the business to now over 150 clients, and we turn our business from being mostly maintenance service contracts to now mostly projects. So we started about 80% maintenance, 20% projects, and now we're about 70% projects and 30% maintenance. What that means in my business is that now we have more profitable revenue, because in the landscaping industry, there is not a whole lot of money to make in maintenance. There is a lot of competition, a lot of mom and pop or chuck in a truck that are charging $50, $60 a month to cut a property. So there's not a whole lot of profit there. So we started switching into a more project-based business, and so we have better profits. The maintenance side is still very good because it's recurring income, right? So I don't want to remove that completely out of the business. It's very important, and it's nice to know that you have that steady, quote unquote, steady paycheck coming in every month. But the margins and the profits are really more in the specialty projects.
So take me from the beginning. You mentioned when you first took over, there were 5 employees. How many employees do you have now?
So right now we are 13 employees.
Wow.
So on the field we have 9, and we have one who is a virtual assistant, and then my wife and I are also employees of the business.
I mean, that's incredible growth. And you also mentioned about 100 contracts or 100 clients to 150. I mean, that's 50% growth over 3 years, which, like you said, in business, 3 years isn't, I mean, that flies by.
Yeah, it's not much. It's not a lot of time, but I understood from, again, learning from the different mentors that you can actually crunch time and accomplish quite a bit in a small amount of time. The problem that most entrepreneurs face is that they want to wait for the perfect conditions to make the move. They want to wait for the perfect employee to show up, or they want to wait for the money to show up. And what I learned is that sometimes you just have to jump in, take the risk, and then figure it out along the way. So a few tragic things happen in the business that pushed me into making a decision that I knew I had to make, but I was holding back and I wasn't making it. Unfortunately, the tragedy had to happen for me to say, I got to do this thing, because I cannot continue like this anymore. I was working 16-hour days or more, barely sleeping. I lost a ton of weight. My whole family was worried about me because they've never saw me like that. So having to go through all of that pain, and then coming out and looking at these mentors and asking questions, told me I gotta move faster. I gotta move faster. I gotta make decisions faster. I gotta jump in at it faster. I gotta jump in the pool and learn to swim while in the water, rather than looking at the pool and just thinking or imagining what it would look like to swim. So that's what helped me grow so much. And one day I hired this guy, and he didn't have a lot of experience, but he had a great personality. So I knew that I needed to hire him actual people that knew how to do the work, and I just needed him to lead. And so that made me have to hire another 3 guys off the bat. So I hired 4 guys in basically 1 month for that reason. But now I have so much work that I'm actually looking to hire 2 more people right now.
That's
So people are most people think, oh man, I wish I could hire this guy, but I don't know if I can afford it. And what my mentor taught me is like, no, you gotta hire the people first, get yourself off the field, and now focus on getting your phone to ring.
mm,
So because now I'm not on the field anymore,
mm-hmm.
I have the time to call people and say, hey, how are you doing? Remember me? And then people are like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to call you. I've worked for you. Come over. I couldn't do that before. So this mentor told me, you gotta get the people in place and ready to work so that when the work comes, you're ready to go. You're not like scrambling to how you're going to get this project done or how you're going to go serve that property.
I mean, that's an incredible story, an incredible testimony. What do you think was the key, or maybe there's more than one, that helped you break the micromanager? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that, and I think many entrepreneurs and business owners struggle with that a whole lot longer than you did. So, is there any tips, tricks, advice that you give to people who are kind of stuck in the micromanager role?
Just like anything is intentional, right? And it's a mindset. So right now, and no joke, right now, I purposely get myself busy with something else so that I don't have the temptation to have to jump in the field or go check on the guys or go to the shop. I haven't been to my shop in like 2 months
Wow.
uh, because I purposely fill my calendar with things that are still building the business, but it doesn't give me enough time to say, let me go to the shop or let me go check on the guys at the job site. And, so it's just got to be intentional. Like if you don't put intention behind it, you're just going to continue to act in automatic. My automatic mode is go check on the guys,
Mm-hmm.
give them a call. Where are they? What are they doing? Did they finish? Did they not finish? Do they know what they need to do tomorrow? Did they check the schedule? Like it's my wiring tells me I got to be on top of everything and on top of everybody. And it doesn't work. It only, that mindset led me to suffering. That mindset led me to pain and actually more failure because people got frustrated at me. They're like, leave me alone. It's like, I got this. And I wasn't utilizing my people to the best of their abilities. I wasn't allowing them to flourish. I wasn't allowing them to be creative and to give me ideas and to help me build the business. Now it's different because I call my guys, my two leaders, I call them and I say, hey, what do you think of this? And they give me ideas and I said, okay, let's run with that. Let's try it out and see what happens. And then they call me back and they said, okay, yeah, we tried it and it was great. Or they call me and say, no, you know what? Didn't work. Let's try it this way. And I'm just allowing them. In fact, at the Bible study this morning, that we have a group of guys that we meet. You're actually part of it, right? We talked about in Proverbs. It says that we gotta trust in God instead of in our own understanding, right? This is Proverbs 3, I believe.
Yep.
So it's the trust in God, but we also have trust in our people. We we are we are doing so much work to hire them and to bring the right people into place. But if we don't allow them to be them, to be themselves, to create, to give us ideas. If we don't allow them, then we are hindering ourselves from growing. They're the ones now bringing me new clients. They're the ones now giving me ideas to make things better. They're the ones now that are handling situations with the crews. And guess what? Now I have more peace. And that also allows me the opportunity to be more creative and find ways to get more work, to find more people that are going to bring us the keys to the kingdom. Because there is a concept of the kingdom of God, right? So there is somebody out there with the keys to my kingdom. So I got to find them. But I only have the time to do that now that I was able to trust my guys and say, this is yours. You handle it.
So, give us some practical tips on how you identified and hired, because it sounds like you have a great team and it sounds like you have a lot of trust in your team. I mean, to go 2 months without having to step foot in the field or even your own shop, that tells me that you have a lot of trust in your employees, at least your team captains, your team leaders. What did you do? How did you find these people? Are there characteristics? Are there traits that you look for? Is it, a level of experience in the field? Was it referrals, like other people telling you these people are great? I know many business owners say one of their issues is finding good people to hire. So how did you go about that? How were you so successful in finding the right people?
So I consider myself a builder of people, meaning I truly believe my calling is to promote people, to help them find more success or find a better career. I pride myself on saying that I've been able in my career help a lot of people get promoted. Uh, as a matter of fact, I've had about two or three stories that I can think of people that were working at a very lower level than my level at the time, and through advice, through help and mentoring. One of them right now is a VP for a major corporation in Collier County. Another one is a regional director. So technically enough surpassed the level that I was in when I met them. And so I apply the same principles I with my guys. So these two guys that are now my leaders, they were part of the cruise, and I just saw something in them that caught my eye. I saw the potential, and I started working with them and saying, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And I started asking questions, give me ideas, and hey, I have this problem. Can you please help me solve it? And they just showed the capabilities of doing it. One of them was already from the business when I purchased it. So I didn't really hire him. He came with the business, but I just saw that potential in him. So one day I took him out to lunch and I said, "Hey, I really want to do this with you. Would you be interested?" And basically what I said is, "I want to promote you. I would like you to be our field supervisor. Do you think you can do it?" And he said, "Well, I'm not sure. I don't think that I know all of the names of the plants, and I don't think that I know how to speak proper English." And I said, "Well, first, do you think that I knew anything about landscaping when I bought this business?" And he's like, "No." I said, "You can be honest. He's like, "No, you didn't know anything." And I said, "Exactly. So certainly you can learn it because I learned it. And English, I've seen you speak with people many times, and people understand you enough. As a matter of fact, the reason why I'm asking you this is because I've seen how you interact with our customers, and they love you. So I would like to see you succeed. Like, you have all of these good traits that I would like to see you at a higher level, and I want you to mentor other people so that they can achieve the same success that you have achieved. Would you be interested on that?" So he's like, "Yeah." So he's been taking some English classes to improve on his communication. And by now he already knows a bunch of different names of plants, and he's getting better, with the different varieties and things that we do. The other one, I actually was looking for somebody to take me off the field. So he's my replacement. He replaced me on the field. So I knew this was a very, very important hire. So I interviewed quite a bit of people, and for the most part, you get that vibe. It's like, "Oh, this person is just not. I don't think this is the right fit." Maybe they said something, or even just the energy that they came in with in the room. So I just asked a lot of questions to get to know them, personality wise. How would you do it? How would you treat this person if they came to you and yell at you? Or how would you react if a coworker would tell you this? And I try to use very real life examples that I've gone through, which is why I'm not able to give you very detailed questions that I would ask. I think you have to be able to tailor those questions based on your business and based on the position that you're looking for, but make it relatable, right? Things that you have actually gone through so that you can compare what actually happened versus what the person is saying. And through those conversations, I think the person will tell you either the things that you want to hear or the things that you don't want to hear, or they would even give you pointers, tips, if you will, of things that you could have done better in that specific situation. So he checked all of the boxes, and I worked with him on the field for a couple of months. So I saw his integrity. I saw the way that he worked. He demonstrated that he deeply cared for his job and for the quality of the work that he was delivering. So that gave me also the insight to say, "Look, this is the guy that I gotta make him a leader. I gotta give him the opportunity to show that he can do more than just using the tools and hammering or trimming or whatever. So to summarize, what I've been saying is, you gotta build a relationship with people, right? You gotta go look for the person first, ask the right questions, use your gut feeling too, because your gut feeling is a good indication. I've made the mistake of hiring people that said all the right things, but my gut feeling was kind of like iffy, but they said the right things, and I hired them and they turned out to be terrible employees.
Mm.
So check the box of, did they say what you want to hear, and did you have a good feeling about them? Build a relationship, and that's how you can start promoting people.
I love that. And I want to circle back because you mentioned your faith and you've touched on rules that I believe align with the Bible, and I know what a godly man you are. So I want to give you a moment. Can you touch on some of the principles that you've learned from the Word of God that directly apply to your business and that you give credit to God for helping you grow and prosper in this business?
The biggest principle that I learned was to trust him in everything. Didn't matter whether it was something that was good or something that wasn't good. And I don't use the word bad,
Mm-hmm.
because there is nothing bad in my opinion. After I learned the principle of trusting God, there is nothing bad. It is either working on you or is working for you. If it's working on you, it's usually something difficult, something challenging. But what isn't, that will take you to the next level, you know? So, and I always say everything is hard, but so long as you have a good attitude, it almost becomes enjoyable and easy. So going through all of the pain, losing the weight, going through sleepless nights, going through difficult conversations with my wife, like we would hide in the closet, and we would just cry because we didn't know if we had made the right decision. I was killing myself out there on the field and doing stuff that I wasn't really meant to do, you know. So the biggest principle I learned was trusting God in everything. And let me, you know what? Let me gather my thoughts, because there is a verse that I would like to share. Is my favorite verse, but because I am on an interview, I'm a little nervous, so I forget it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
give me
Take
a
your
minute
time.
here, or maybe you can remind me. Is it John that says, "Count it all joy"?
Oh, yes. So the the one that
Okay,
I'm thinking of, so there's a couple verses that are similar, but I believe yours is coming from a letter that Paul wrote. The one that I know of is from First Peter. I believe he says something along the lines of, or it's from James, right? James wrote.
James.
James,
James first.
count all your suffering as joy.
Yeah.
Um, Suffering produces character, character endurance, endurance leads to hope,
If
and
you don't mind, can I
yeah,
read it real quick? I found it.
yes,
So
please.
it says, "My brothers, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives it to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given unto him. But let him ask in faith with no doubting, for he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For let not that man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double minded man, unstable in all his ways." And I wanted to read the whole thing because a lot of people just read the first part, just count it all joy, and they forget, the other part, because it is challenging. Being an entrepreneur is it is constant. I don't want to call it suffering, but it is kind of suffering if you don't have the right mindset. And when I first started, I didn't have the right mindset. I thought that I could control it all. I thought that with my own understanding, I could make this thing happen. That with my experience and with all of my degrees and with all of my 10 years in this and 5 years in that and whatnot, that I could make it happen. And I completely forgot that it was God in the first place that gave me this idea. And if he gave me this idea, that means that he gave me the resources that I needed in order to make it successful. But I took my eyes off of him. So when I started reading this, I would start reading it every day, and every time that I went through a difficult time, I would open this up. I have it highlighted on my phone so that it's like quick access, and I would just read it. And there were days that I would just cry by myself in the car, and just plead to God and say, God, like I really need your help. Help me figure this out. Help me understand this. What is it that you want me to do today? Because I have no idea. I just know I have this big business, all of these employees, all of these clients, and I don't know what I need to do next. How do I serve them? How do I help them? How do I figure out what is the next step? So asking for wisdom was huge for me, but I also learned that I needed to believe that that answer was coming to me, and not all of the answers came in at once. I asked the question, and sometimes I kind of had to lay back and just wait for the answer. And then as I continued to put my trust in him, then I had a bunch of aha moments. I still have aha moments that I'm like, oh, wow, now I know why, 2 years ago, this happened with this employee. Now I can deal with this situation much better because I have that experience. Or, oh, wow, now I know why this customer, we had this issue with them, and or the accident happened, and now I know how to prevent it, and now I know what I need to do. Or why this machine broke. Oh, well, duh, you forgot to change the oil and put a maintenance service program on it. So all of those trials were part of the process of building the wisdom that I have now. Not that I'm wise in all my ways or anything like that. Again, I'm still learning, and I'm still looking at this verse and passage and asking for that wisdom. But it's allowed me to continue to grow in a very steady pace, where now I feel more confident making certain decisions, and I don't use the numbers as an excuse to prevent me from making the decision, whether it's purchasing the equipment because we need it, or whether it's hiring the extra person because we need it, or whether it's buying the truck, or perhaps even buying another business, which is something that I'm considering, is buying another business so that we can grow by acquisition. So it's just, now that I have the time, because I've applied all of the principles that we talked about prior, now I have the time to say, what else can I do to continue to grow this business, and ultimately is, how can I bring more blessings to my guys?
Mm.
So if I continue to grow my business, guess what? I'm going to have more opportunities for them also.
Yeah.
And the blessing is not just going to be for me and my family; it's going to be for them and their families. So one of the things that makes me the happiest is when we have to do payroll, because it's God who is providing for all of us, and it's such a pleasure to cut those checks every week and say, man, I'm just so honored and humbled by the fact that God has allowed me this opportunity to bless other people through this one business, and it's not only my guys. Like, I'm able to refer other businesses. I'm able to actually work with other businesses. And so one guy that knew nothing about landscaping now is able to bring some level of prosperity to others. That to me is such a beautiful thing. And I look forward to continue to grow it and continue to bring more people and continue to bless more families. I look forward to actually seeing generations of families being blessed by this organization.
Amen, man. I love that. And that's perfect segue. I want to give you kind of the open floor for last word. What's next for you? What's the vision long term for this business? And, anything that you want to reiterate or summarize, please take the floor and help me close it out.
So what's looking for us in the near future. Our most immediate goal is to grow to $2 million. I made my wife a promise, and I said, when we reach $2 million, we're gonna book a trip to Europe, because we haven't been. We've been married 14 years almost now, and so that's one of our dreams, our bucket lists, if you will. So that's our goal financially with the business. But ultimately, my goal is to grow it to a $10 million business by the end of 2028. That's my goal. So right now, my focus is continue to grow my leaders. I don't grow teams anymore. I grow leaders, and those leaders are gonna grow the teams for us, and grow by acquisition and also grow organically. So we do a lot of social media presence. I don't believe in boosting posts, and I would recommend it to anybody. I know some people believe in paying whatever the different social media platforms to boost their content. I don't. what I do is I consistently post. We're posting 3 to 5 times a day, 7 days a week, whether it's a picture or a video or just a simple word content, whatever the case is. And that has allowed us to gain quite a bit of presence in our market. I have a lot of people that come in like, "Oh, I saw you doing landscaping, man. That's awesome. You're all over the place. Your business looks huge." Like they have this perception that we've grown so much. I mean, we are a semi big company. I tell my guys all the time we're in a awkward position because we're not a large company like companies that have 3 or 4 and 500 employees, but we are competing in that arena. So there is that perception out there, from a lot of people that see us all over the place. So I definitely believe that you gotta be very consistent with social media and keeping your Google pages and your website to make sure that when people look you up, because they will look you up, you got to
Mm-hmm.
look legit. Yeah. Reviews are important, so we're constantly asking our clients to give us 5-star reviews. So we've been blessed that right now we have 80 plus 5-star reviews, which is crazy for me because I look at our competitors and a lot of them have been in business way longer than I have, and they don't have nearly as many reviews, and they don't have 5-star reviews. So that's something that we can be proud of, and has helped us a ton to continue to attract better clientele and also better employees, right? Because now we have a reputation out there, so we have people randomly calling us for work. So yeah, our goal is to continue to grow the business, but also, and just a quick tip here, also thinking of what is our strategy or exit strategy, because there will be a strategy that needs to be in place for exit, whether it's me retiring and passing it along to my kids if they want to stay with it, or selling it to somebody else. So we build the business thinking that at some point we're going to have to exit. So structuring our financials, making sure that we're not mixing personal expenses with business expenses, making sure that all of those accounts are separate, making sure that we have the right corporate structure, making sure that all of our employees are properly vetted. Basically, just setting it up in a way where if somebody was to come to me today and offer me, an unreal amount of money, I could say, yeah, here are the keys, if I wanted to, or say, you know what, no, I'm good. To have choices, because I do see a lot of business owners out there that don't set it up that way, and then when they are tired and they want to retire, they don't have a succession plan. And I've also seen a lot of stories of people dying young because they kill themselves working too much, getting too stressed over this. And what happens to the business? So I've seen a lot of families suffer because usually it's the husband that passes away, and the husband was the one operating and running the business and the one that knew where the list of clients was and who the employees were and how the business ran. And they didn't have a succession plan. So now the wife is not only having to deal with the death of her husband, but dealing with, what do I do with this? Because I still need to pay bills, and I don't know what to do with the business. So most of the time the business either ends up going down or going under or being lost or being sold for pennies on the dollar, or worse, So that would be my last tip for that. And I look forward to continue to grow our business. I actually look forward to continue to grow our group on Tuesdays, that we touch a lot of on these points. And yeah, we'll see what life has for us, what God has for us in store. But I am very blessed, and God has provided so much for us, more than I deserve, man. Definitely. So if I can leave one last thing with people, is put your eyes on God, and He will take you to the places that you wouldn't even imagine.
Amen, man. And thank you so much for one coming on. I also just want to say I love how we ended, because I'd love to bring you back on again in a few weeks, in a few months when the time is right. I'd love to explore more on the succession and exit planning. That's a lot of the work that I do personally for my clients, and it's very refreshing to hear from someone else without me prompting or asking about it, for someone else to bring up its importance, because it's often an overlooked thing. And that exact situation that you just mentioned about a husband who's a business owner passing away unexpectedly, prematurely, business inherited by the wife without without processes. Fortunately, God has their godly family. God has provided. It looks like things are going to work out, but I've seen that happen firsthand. It's nothing I would wish on anyone. So I'm one, thank you for bringing it up. It's often an overlooked subject, something that needs to be talked about more. Would love to bring you on just to dive more into your vision and how you see the exit, and maybe some tips and tricks on how you've set up your corporate structure so that things are transferable when that time comes, so that you can go enjoy Europe with your wife, so you can I know you're already focusing on your family, I know you well, but so that you can put even more time and energy into your children and your wife and traveling and doing the things outside of the business that are also very, very important to living a godly life. So, Walter, I can't thank you enough. Guys, if you're watching this, if you got value out of this, which I know you have, this was jam-packed episode full of value. Please do me a favor, hit like, drop a comment, hit subscribe. This channel is growing exactly the same way that Walter described. I'm not paying for ads. I'm not boosting posts. This is totally organic, and this is really just here to help bless business owners and put the spotlight on Naples and Southwest Florida. So do me a favor, hit subscribe. And Walter, thanks again for coming on. I can't wait for our next conversation.